Welcome, everybody. Good morning. My name is Dialog, coming at you live from Brooklyn. And guess what? I got a friend. His name is Kishore Gopal, and he's coming at us live from Ypsilanti, Michigan, home of the Ypsilanti Igloos, home of the Ypsilanti Igloo Makers, your favorite Category C soccer team. Just made that up. Kishore is a soccer fan, but he's coming at us live from Ypsilanti, Michigan. Good longtime friend of mine. We used to live in New York together, not together like in the same house, but we used to live in New York, the same East Village. He used to live in our ashram here at the Bhakti Center, and he's an amazing kirtan singer, an amazing, reflective, deep individual. He would lead our Tuesday night kirtans here, and he was one of my favorite people to lead Tuesday night kirtans at the Bhakti Center. We had a Tuesday night kirtan last night. We need you to come back and help us lead Tuesday night kirtans, Kishore. I'm pretty much leading them every week. Nate, you know Nate, Mridanga player? He's playing Mridanga. Sometimes it's just me and Nate, and there's no karto player, just me and Nate. Last week we had somebody else. Sometimes some other people, friends come in and come out. We do have some other people that support us. But would love to have you around. And I just always loved when you would lead kirtan and you would and when you would speak and share, very deep and reflective. So I'm really grateful that you're here with us this week. If you're tuning in for the first time or your 10th time or whatever time, I'm glad you're here. This is your daily spiritual check-in with us, just to check in and make sure that we get a little dose of spirit into our day, because we need it. We need it deeply. We need reminders. I'm forgetful quite often. Anybody else out there forgetful? What is it? Repetition creates patterns, I think. That's what I said yesterday from this Hindi book that I'm studying. I had a Hindi lesson this morning, just before this, with Anshika in India. I learned online. Anyways, enough about me. How you doing, Kishore?
Yeah, I'm all right. I just got back, so I'm just settling in. And this morning I went to the temple, waking the deities. So it's like getting back into routine and getting my bearings. We had
Kishore's
there.
also a priest. He does priestly duties at the temple, so he went and did altar services. That's what he means when he says he's waking the deities. Did the morning puja, the morning services.
Yeah.
Early bird. You did that today, so you're up early.
Yeah. I even left a little bit later than I would like. I still made it on time, but so yeah, I've been up for a little bit. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm doing, just getting back into routine and start working again, the whole 9 yards. So
the whole 9 yards. And what do? You working?
Well, I'm just I starting a new job, doing customer service.
Customer service.
It's like it's actually a working from home job.
Ooh.
Which is great.
Customer service from the convenience of my own home.
Yeah. So
beautiful. Well, I'm looking forward to sharing and discussing with you. We've been reading the Gita, and I was thinking that maybe, unless there was a specific topic, question, or area of spiritual insight you wanted to get into, we can just continue reading the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, we can start with reading. That's great.
Sweet. So we've been on the 4th chapter of the Gita. We restarted yesterday. We started reading chapter the 10th verse of the 4th chapter. If you didn't listen to yesterday, go back and check it out, because it gives a lot of context about this particular verse, chapter 4, verse 10, which there's a lot that's in there. And Krishna speaks, and I'll just read it again. We started reading this verse yesterday, and we read the first line of the commentary, and that's all we got. And we said that we would continue. So I'm going to read this verse. And the way we do it, Kishore, is we just read and then you share. So I'm a free flowing, whatever you want to call me, free flowing, free dude. And so there's really not a lot of structure for me. I just blurt it out. And so you feel free to blurt it back at me. and ask questions or just reflections. We keep it free flowing here.
Okay.
It's just imagine that you're in kindergarten and you don't have to raise your hand. You just let it roll. Being
All right.
freed from attachment, fear, and anger. So Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, which is really, really interesting because all three of those things would be very valid emotions for Arjuna to feel at this time. Attachment, meaning that he's at the onset of a civil war. And so, there's a lot of familial attachments taking place where he's attached to outcomes and security and safety and reputation and so many things. Fear of losing people, fear of doing the wrong thing. How many of us fear just simply, it's not even like I'm willing at times to do whatever's needed, but I just want to know, am I making the right decision? Fear of making the wrong decision, hurting people unnecessarily. And anger at other people, anger at God, angry at circumstances, So a lot of things that Arjuna could very easily and reasonably, without fault, feel. But being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, how do you become free from attachment, fear, and anger? You elevate your perspective. We've been talking a lot about that, elevating our perspective. Being fully absorbed in me, capital M, me, Krishna, and taking refuge in me, many, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. So that's our verse for today. And we read the first line of the purport. As described above, it is very difficult for a person who is too materially affected to understand the personal nature of the supreme absolute truth. Remember, we talked a lot about that, the nature of God as a person and the reciprocator of love. But I could speak more on that and I keep reading, but I wanted to just pause and invite you in, Kishore, that I don't know if you're reading along with us. If you got it popped up, I read from the Veda base online. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. Want to tell us about your attachments, fears, and angers?
It would take up the whole rest of the episode. Yeah, I mean, attachment, fear, and anger are kind of the root. It's like the root of our conditioning to one degree or another. Obviously, the primary attachment is to my body. I'm attached to my body. I'm attached to my identity. I'm attached to so many different things. And so because I'm attached, then that means I'm also afraid of losing them. So without attachment, then also we become fearless. There's a saying, you have nothing to lose. When you have nothing to lose, then you're fearless. But because I'm attached, then that means there are many things I have to lose. And so much fear is there. And then, of course, a different kind of attachment would be attachment to getting things. We have attachment for keeping what we have, and also an attachment to get more things. And then, of course, when we don't get what we are wanting to get, then we can also become angry, frustrated, upset, etc., whichever word you want to use. And so, yeah, I mean, it's all things that I experience every day.
I feel attacked right now. Describing my life. I have a question for you that came up, and this came up last night. I have a Gita discussion group at the Bhakti Center that I do on Tuesdays. And we were reading the third chapter right before this. The third chapter is entitled Karma Yoga, the yoga of action. And there's a lot of language about, Krishna saying being freed from attachment and not being attached to the outcomes. Krishna, even in the second chapter, defines yoga as samatvam yoga uchyate, and like an evenness of mind, meaning being detached from success or failure, not caring about the outcomes. And there was somebody asking a really good question about that, like what becomes the motivation to do anything, or it just seems that like for example, because we were talking about like dharma also, and the nature of having a purpose in this life. And she said that her purpose and occupation has always been one throughout her life, and she feels good about it. She works in aid relief. So, like for example, there was a crisis of an earthquake in Turkey. And she works with providing aid relief to disaster victims. And
Mm,
so, she says there's a lot of care and there's a lot of like attachment to things going a certain way and wanting to help people. And I feel like if there's not that attachment, it just kind of leads to this space of, well, then I kind of almost give it like a half-hearted effort.
mm,
Where, okay, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I kind of become like passive towards life, and nothing really matters to me. So the question was, what does it really mean to be free from attachment? And does it mean that I stop caring about things, which doesn't seem very, the idea of things not bothering me, that sounds really nice. Like, I don't want to be
mm,
bothered by things. I'm stressed. I'm awake at night and, worrying about stuff, and it's causing all the cortisol. It's cortisol, the stress
mm.
hormone. Is that what it is? Can't really, people are nodding their head like, yeah, I know that one real well. All the cortisol flaring in the system. But to also to not care also seems a little callous. And so since you brought up attachment, you're talking about that, I wanted to hear your reflections on that question. Did it make sense? Did I ask the question? Okay.
I think so. Um, yeah, the how to understand not being attached, or not being attached to the results, not being attached to the outcomes, but
Mm.
also not becoming completely apathetic to the things that we do in our life, whether it's our work, even with family, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's a good question. It's a great question. Let's see. Um, well, the first thing that comes to my mind is that you can have attachment in different modes. So, like, there's mode of passion and goodness and ignorance. And what I found uh, personally is that attachment in the
Mm.
mode of ignorance is more of like ignoring things. How to say? Uh, I mean, rather, you can say like it becomes like apathy.
Mm.
It's like, oh, whatever happens, it doesn't really matter. So I'm not gonna try. I'm just gonna like, it's like a what's that animal that like puts its head in the sand?
Me?
Uh, is it
I
ostrich?
think that's called a Dialgarungadas. The
Like,
ostrich. The ostrich puts its head in the sand. Is there an ostrich emoji? There's no. We don't have the ostrich emoji.
yeah, I think they need to make one of those.
I'm gonna look.
Um, yeah, that's something that I've experienced. It's like, oh, I'm trying to like, be really detached,
Mm.
and but what ends up happening is being so detached in an immature way, then actually my anxieties increase
Mm.
because there's a certain amount of engagement we have to have with the world, uh, as part of our responsibility as being human beings. And while we don't, I think that the detachment from the outcome is more like my personal investment, or that my value comes from results.
Mm.
Like if this doesn't work out, it reflects on me. Like I'm worse, or I'm a bad person, or I'm ineffective, or I'm incapable. Um, I think that one of the functions of the mind, in the negative connotation, it always wants to make us stagnant in some way or another. The mind wants us to stop doing what's best for us, to stop doing what's healthy for us, et cetera, et cetera. This has been at least my experience. And so all these different manifestations of um, ignorance, or all comes back to like just kind of being stagnant and rooted
Mm.
within just the material elements. So because I worked in healthcare, and there it's also about results. Like, you
Mm.
go in to take care of someone, and the ideal outcome is that they feel cared for. And in a
Mm.
sense, also your job depends on it. So you're wanting that you do what you
Mm.
need to do effectively and a quality way. But it's kind of like I do the best that I can. I do everything within my power to do my duty or my service as best as I can. And after that, it's out of my control.
Mm.
And I think, like, when we talk about a part of the conditioned nature being that we want to be the controller and the enjoyer, that I put the effort, I make something happen, and I enjoy the result of that. So it's
Mm.
more like me centered. Whereas I think the healthy kind of attachment, or you can say detachment to an outcome, is that my focus is on the other person. My focus is on the active service that I do, whether it's for people who are affected by tragedy, whether it's for healthcare patients, whether it's for family. My focus is as a service to them. I do the best that I can to offer whatever it is that I can offer for their benefit.
Mm.
And that changes the mindset. Then what the outcome, if the outcome is not exactly what I want, it's a different kind of effect than if it's like it's me centered. I want to feel the benefit of doing something for somebody
Mm.
else.
Yeah. I really love that. I think that's super beautiful. There's a couple of things that I really appreciated you contextualizing the idea of something through the modes of nature, that we look at something so I make up words here sometimes, but like so blanket statemently, like just unidimensional, um and that something being good or bad, but actually something has layers of how it's applied in our life in healthy or unhealthy ways. So even detachment in the mode of ignorance, in the mode of passion, in the mode of goodness, passion in a lower mode, is that detachment in that lower mode is that sense of apathy, that it doesn't matter. I stop caring. It's like I'm relinquishing responsibility. But when you elevate that, it actually is to a place of um my worth doesn't come from the results of something. And so
Mm,
it's actually detaching my sense of value from the outcome of what I'm doing.
yeah.
And it's so interesting. I quoted that verse earlier just because it was a verse that was referenced in my mind. What Krishna says in the second chapter, verse 48, he says, "Perform your duty equipoise, Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga." And that's about like midway through the little bit more than midway through the second chapter. And everything all the way up before that is just talking about the eternal nature of the soul, how you're not your body, you're not even your mind, you're beyond what happens to you in this life, that the soul is immutable and indestructible and can't be withered by the wind or moistened by water or burned by fire, and that's indestructible. And so it's almost like Krishna's teeing up what you just said, that the soul is eternal, and therefore uh make sure you understand your value, your worth, your identity beyond what
Mm,
happens to you in this life or what you do in this life,
yeah.
and the results of your endeavors. And then he takes it a step further just later on in the same chapter, where he talks about the idea of being able to, and this will become the overarching theme and kind of like the destination, so to speak, of the Gita, is learning to dedicate our life and our actions to something beyond ourselves.
Mm,
And ultimately that becomes partnering with a divine higher power in terms of, how can I best serve? I want to serve. It's the nature of the soul to serve, to be engaged in service towards others and something outside myself. And I want to be guided in the best way to do that. And so I think detachment also comes from simply accepting that everybody has a God and it's not me, that I'm not the controller, and that I'm not the only, like there's that kind of that sense of everything rests on my shoulders, which is a great burden to carry and just is never true. It's just never true that it all rests on me, because I don't got the whole world in my hands. It's not my role. It's above my pay grade. And so I think detachment is also just the sense, it's not like it's not caring, but it's just letting go of that kind of idea that we have, that it all depends on me and it all rests on me, that if it doesn't work out, it's because I didn't try hard enough. And if it does work out, it's because of me. And just recognizing that there are other factors in play, other people and another divine controller, divine friend, divine higher power that is also guiding and directing us in some way. So I love the idea of the different like levels of detachment in healthy and unhealthy ways. It's not like a blanket good or bad. And then I also love the idea of how you mentioned detachment not being a part of, like, being detached from something defining who we are, and then detachment being focused on me not being the controller and wanting to partner with a higher power, partner with Krishna in order to understand how can I best serve. Because sometimes I think that I'm trying to help, or I think I should be serving in a certain way, but I might need insight into actually what's the best role that I can play in the situation, whether it's to step in and get involved, or whether it's to stay out and leave some space. What that looks like is not always clear and apparent. So those are some of my reflections.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like how you articulated that. So yeah, that's perfect.
Perfect. We did it, guys. Good job. We actually right around this time, because we keep it short and sweet here, we look to some of our Zoomers here that write some takeaways. We have Kimberly. Kimberly's our formerly appointed Wrap It Up Acharya. She takes the takeaways. So if you guys want to hear some takeaways, tune in. We can read what we got in the chat, and also Kimberly, what you got for us as takeaways. We hear our takeaways, and then we share a closing word. Then we go about our day in a healthy, detached manner.
Takeaways. So without attachment, we are fearless. Do the best you can. Our worth isn't tied to the results. Our act of service is partnering with a higher power and offering our best for another's benefit. And everyone has a God, and it's not me.
Thank God. And Stephanie Heinhold wrote, Martha wrote, it was really beautiful. To be selective to what we are attached to. Yes. Spiritual attachment versus superficial material attachment. Yes, attachment you can't get rid of, but it's a matter of what am I attaching myself to. Stephanie wrote, there are so many factors that impact each and every decision. Remaining grounded in the foundation of loving service to others can keep us connected to Krishna's guidance. There are so many factors that impact each and every decision. Remaining grounded in the foundation of loving service to others can keep us connected to Krishna's guidance. I really love that. Let me get back to that as my takeaway in a second. But what's your closing word, Kishore? You got a closing word, something that you're walking away with. What are you walking away with, and what are you walking away from? What are you giving up and detaching yourself from? You're going to quit your job? You're going to move out of, break up with your partner? What are you doing?
I would say in terms of walking away from, probably, yeah, I think like identifying too much with the result of the effort that I put in. I think it's definitely something I've struggled with. And in terms of walking towards something, I think going from a like moving forward from a perspective of how can I serve. I think it's just a very well-rounded direction, because you're thinking about others also, but you also think about yourself, because it's like I have to keep myself at a high level in terms of like looking after myself and everything, because then I'm also better positioned to serve. So you kind of get the best of both worlds in that sense. So
Hmm.
that's my takeaway.
Beautiful. I love that. And for me, I love you mentioned walking towards, like, the idea of detaching myself from something creates space for something else. And so I think a lot of times in spiritual life, it's all a matter of like, what am I giving up? What am I detaching myself from, et cetera? And we don't always ask ourselves the positive, healthy question of like, what am I working towards? What am I going towards? What am I looking forward to? What am I building towards? And so I think that that's a beautiful thing to think about, and for me to question, like, you know, what am I walking towards, and what am I trying to invite more of in my life? And so I appreciate that, and relates to excuse me, little what Stephanie wrote about remaining grounded in the foundation of loving service to others can keep us connected to Krishna's guidance. And that's what I want to walk towards. I want to walk towards being continuously guided. Beautiful. Thank you so much. We'll pick up this tomorrow. You joining us tomorrow?
Yeah.
Maybe. We'll see. Looking forward to it. We'll be here tomorrow, same time, same place. Please join us. If you haven't already, please go leave a 5-star review, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you do and don't listen to podcasts. A couple other quick announcements. Bhakti Center's Ayurveda Spring Cleanse online starts this Saturday. You can take it from anywhere in the world and being guided on an 8-day Khichdi cleanse. Get all of those toxins out of your body and get ready for spring to get your hot bod ready for summer. No, but seriously, wherever you are, and it's always good to just kind of have that. It's just like a spring cleaning of the body. And fasting and cleansing in Ayurveda is very different than we normally think. It's not starving the self. It's eating khichdi every day, which is an easily digestible, nourishing sort of a rice and lentil stew. So your body's getting the nourishment that it needs, and at the same time, easily digestible. And it just kind of lets your internal systems do some work to kind of break all down the toxins and then release them. And you're coached through it the whole way through. So check it out on our website. Also, I'm going to start announcing this also, is that we're looking to build a little media team for our Spirit Matters. So if you have background in, I don't know if it's videography but just we want to start editing and creating media collateral. Is that the right word for our Spirit Matters podcasts? For promotional and yeah, it's okay. Kimberly's laughing at me. That's okay. Collateral. We're looking for media associates to assist in our collateral. No, we're just looking for a media team that wants to help us improve and create the best quality experience on our podcast, as well as being able to share audio clips and video snippets and graphics, as well as, like, quotes and things like that we can share and give to other people and offer to you. So write to us at spiritmatters@bhakticenter.org. spiritmatters@bhakticenter.org. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you guys all so much. That's all for today. We'll be with you tomorrow. Thank you so much, Kishore. Thank you to our live Zoom studio audience. And thank you to all of you, wherever you're tuning in from. I love you, and I'm grateful that you're here with us. And we hope that you can join us again. Thank you for being part of our family. Bye-bye.